Letter 145 by Charles Lamb. Charles Lamb to William Wordsworth, dated at end, February 1st, 1806. Dear Wordsworth, I have seen the books which you ordered, booked at the White Horse Inn, Cripplegate, by the Kendal wagon this day 1st Febby. 1806. You will not fail to see after them in time. They are directed to you at Grasmere. We have made some alteration in the editions since your sister's directions. The handsome quarto Spencer, which she authorized Mary to buy for £2.12 when she brought it home in triumph, proved to be only the Fairy Queen. So we got them to take it again, and I have procured instead a folio, which luckily contains, besides all the poems, the view of the state of Ireland, which is difficult to meet with. The Spencer and the Chaucer, being noble old books, we did not think Stockdale's modern volumes would look so well beside them. Added to which, I don't know whether you are aware that the print is excessive small, same as Elig. Extracts, or smaller, not calculated for eyes in age. And Shakespeare is one of the last books one should like to give up, perhaps the one just before the dying service in a large prayer book. So we have used our own discretion in purchasing Pope's fine quarto in 6 volumes, which may be read ad ultimam horam vitae. It is bound like law books, rather, half-bound, and the law robe I have ever thought as comely and gentlemanly a garb as a book would wish to wear. The state of the purchase then stands thus. Urry's Chaucer 1 £16, Pope's Shakespeare 2 Spencer 14, Milton 1 5, packing case and C 366. 6. Which your brother immediately repaid us. He has the bills for all by his desire, except the Spencer, which we took no bill with, not looking to have our accounts audited. So for that and the case he took a separate receipt for 176. N.B. There is writing in the Shakespeare, but it is only vari lections which some careful gentleman, the former owner, was at the pains to insert in a very neat hand from 5 commentators. It is no defacement. The fault of Pope's edition is that he has comically and coxcombically marked the beauties, which is vile, as if you were to chalk up the cheek and across the nose of a handsome woman in red chalk to show where the comeliest parts lay. But I hope the noble type and library appearance of the books will atone for that. With the books come certain books and pamphlets of G. Dyer, presents or rather decoy-ducks of the poet to take in his thus far obliged friends to buy his other works, as he takes care to inform them in MS notes to the title pages. G. Dyer, author of other books printed for Longman and C. The books have lain at your dispatchful brother's a 12 months, to the great staling of most of the subjects. The 3 letters and what is else written at the beginning of the respective presents will ascertain the division of the property. If not, none of the donees, I dare say, will grudge a community of property in this case. We were constrained to pack 'em how we could, for room. Also there comes W. Hazlitt's book about human action for Coleridge, a little songbook for Sarah Coleridge, a box for Hartley which your brother was to have sent but now devolved on us. I don't know from whom it came, but the things altogether were too much for Mr. I forgot his name to take charge of, a paraphrase on the King and Queen of Hearts, of which I being the author beg Mr. Johnny Wordsworth's acceptance and opinion. Liberal criticism, as G. Dyer declares, I am always ready to attend to. And that's all I believe. And B. I must remain debtor to Dorothy for 200 pence, but really Miss Stoddart women are great gulfs of stationery, who is going home to Salisbury and has been with us some weeks, has drained us to the very last pen. By the time SDC passes through London I reckon I shall be in full feather. No more news has transpired of that wanderer. I suppose he has found his way to some of his German friends. Apropos of Spencer, you will find him mentioned a page or 2 before, near enough for an apropos. I was discoursing on poetry, as one's apt to deceive on a self, and when a person is willing to talk of what one likes, to believe that he also likes the same, as lovers do with a young gentleman of my office who is deep read in Anacreon Moore, Lord Strangford, and the principal modern poets, and I happened to mention epithalamiums and that I could show him a very fine one of Spencer's. At the mention of this, my gentleman, who is a very fine gentleman, and is brother to the Miss Evans who Coleridge so narrowly escaped marrying, pricked up his ears and expressed great pleasure, and begged that I would give him leave to copy it. He did not care how long it was, for I objected the length. He should be very happy to see anything by him. Then pausing and looking sad, he ejaculated, poor Spencer. I begged to know the reason of his ejaculation, thinking that time had by this time softened down any calamities which the bard might have endured. Why, poor fellow, said he has lost his wife. Lost his wife, said I, who are you talking of? Why, Spencer, said he, I've read the monody he wrote on the occasion, and a very pretty thing it is. This led to an explanation. It could be delayed no longer that the sound Spenser, which when poetry is talked of generally excites an image of an old bard in a ruff, and sometimes with it dim notions of Sir P. Sidney and perhaps Lord Burleigh, had raised in my gentleman a quite contrary image of the Honourable William Spenser, who has translated some things from the German very prettily, which are published with Lady Di. Beauclerk's designs. Nothing like defining of terms when we talk. What blunders might I have fallen into of quite inapplicable criticism, but for this timely explanation. N.B. at the beginning of Edam. Spenser, to prevent mistakes, I have copied from my own copy, and primarily from a book of Chalmers on Shakespeare, a sonnet of Spenser's never printed among his poems. It is curious as being manly and rather Miltonic, and as a sonnet of Spenser's with nothing in it about love or knighthood. I have no room for remembrances, but I hope our doing your commission will prove we do not quite forget you. 1 Feb. 1806. Hazlitt's book about human action for Coleridge. An essay on the principles of human action, 1805. A paraphrase of The King and Queen of Hearts. This was a little book for children by Lamb, illustrated by Mulready and published by T. Hodgkins for the Godwins in 1806. It was discovered through this passage in this letter, and is reprinted in facsimile in vol. Roman 3, of my large edition. The title ran The King and Queen of Hearts, with the rogueries of the knave who stole away the queen's pies. Coleridge had left Malta on September 21, 1805. He went to Naples, and from there to Rome in January, 1806, where he stayed until May 18. Apropos of Spenser, this portion of the letter, owing to a mistake of Talfourd's, is usually tacked on to one dated June, 1806. Miss Evans. See note to letter 3. Poor Spenser. William Robert Spenser, 1769–1834, was the author of Jeu d'Esprit and poems. He is now known, if at all, by his ballad of Bed Gellert. He married the widow of Count Sprety, and in 1804 published a book of elegies entitled The Year of Sorrow. Spenser was among the translators of Burger's Leonore, his version being illustrated by Lady Diana Beauclerk, his great-aunt, in 1796. Lamb used this anecdote as a little article in the Reflector, No. Roman 2, 1811, entitled On the Ambiguities Arising from Proper Names, see vol. I of this edition. Lamb, however, by always spelling the real poet with a C, did nothing towards avoiding the ambiguity. This is the sonnet which Lamb copied into Wordsworth's Spenser from George Chalmers' Supplemental Apology for the Believers in the Shakespeare Papers, 1799, page 94. To the right worshipful, my singular good friend, Mr. Gabriel Harvey, Doctor of the Laws. Harvey, the happy above happiest men I read, that sitting like a looker-on of this world's stage, doest note with critique pen the sharp dislikes of each condition, and as one careless of suspicion, ne fawnest for the favour of the great, ne fearest foolish reprehension of faulty men, which danger to thee threat, but freely doest, of what thee list, entreat like a great lord of peerless liberty, lifting the good up to high honour's seat, and the evil damning evermore to die. For life and death are in thy doomful writing, so thy renown lives ever by inditing. Dublin, this ex-viage of July, 1586. Your devoted friend during life, Edmund Spenser.